Okay, Jerry, you're going to see me coming in and out like this because I'm going to be focusing on making my biscuits, and I want to show you how I do it. 2 ingredients, that's all there is. First thing is you need to get self-rising flour. Why self-rising instead of all-purpose? Because self-rising already has that baking powder in it and the things you need to make it rise. All-purpose does not. Excuse me, if I'm frying chicken, something like that, all-purpose is great for that. But if I want to make bread or biscuits, I need self-rising flour. If I'm making bread, then I use bread flour and yeast. So we're going to go with that, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. It's real simple. I'm taking an ordinary cereal bowl, just big enough to hold what I want, and I'm going to use a measuring cup, which is 3/4 of a cup, because there's only me and the boys, and probably 6 to 8 biscuits is enough. Now, as far as my milk, I'm using that heavy cream. I know it's going to be backwards on the film, but that's great value, meaning Walmart cheapest. And I'm using heavy whipping cream. Why? Because it has fat in it. And the fat is what the biscuits need also to help make them rise. Okay, so we're going to get started. Here we go. I'm going to dip my cup and level it off into my flour. Now, this is just normal self-rising flour. I'm going to dump that into a bowl. With my spoon, I'm going to make a little well. And it really won't matter because in the end, that milk's going to go everywhere anyhow. And I'm going to take the same amount of milk that I used on the flour. So I'm going to fill my cup up again, right to the top. And I'm going to slowly pour that into my bowl. Now that that's in there, I'm done with that. I'll set my cup aside. And I'm going to stir this just a little bit, just sort of work it around and let that flour absorb that milk. Sometime I'll just turn my bowl like this as I stir it. No big deal. Now at first you're going to think, oh, that's way too much milk, but it's not. Because your flour's going to start activating, and when it does, it's going to start getting thicker. It's going to turn to where it's like a sticky type substance, a dough. Once you get it to that point, which is what I'm about at now, you can see how it's already turned sticky. I'm going to reach in and grab me a handful of that flour, and I'm just going to sprinkle it on my board here that I'm working on. Now all I do is I'm going to scrape all that out of that bowl and let it fall right on that board. It's going to be sticky. That's the way it is. Now I'll set that aside, and I'll put a little bit more flour on this spoon of stuff so I can push it off with my dough. Now I no longer need the spoon. I'll lay it aside, I sprinkle a little more flour on it, and I just take my hand and start pushing on my dough and rolling it in that flour on the board. Sometime I might need to grab a little bit more, and that's okay. I just keep working it back and forth. Now here's another thing that your grandmother probably did, and I'm doing too, because hell, I'm getting old as dirt. But anyhow, once I've got it where it feels real good, elastic and all that terms, I'm only using my hand. I don't need a rolling pin. I'm going to press it out a little bit. And I'm just going to tap it like that. You notice the flour's roughly about 1/2 inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick. If it's too thin, you're going to get thin biscuits. If it's thick, you're going to get big biscuits. Now I'm reaching for a glass because I'm going to take a normal drinking glass. I'm going to dip it in my flour. And then I'm going to come back and start cutting out my biscuits. And they'll fall right out of the glass. If they don't, all I got to do is stick my finger in there and they'll come out. Okay, that time I got 3 out, so I'm going to take a normal baking pan. See that one stuck? I just touch it on the bottom and it'll fall right out. I'm going to take my baking pan and I'm going to put those 3 in it touching each other. If they touch each other, they rise a little better. Now I'm going to take this dough on the board and I'm just going to do the same thing I did when I started. I may have to add just a little bit more flour, and I will just sprinkle it on there. But I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to put it out and punch it with my hand just a little bit, flip it over, play with it a little bit. Then I'm going to take my glass and I'm going to get me probably about 2 more biscuits. Biscuits don't have to be perfect for me to eat them, so if one side's cut, then okay, I don't give a rat's behind. I'm going to do my flour again because I still got some more dough. I'll flatten it out a little bit and I'll get me another little biscuit. I'll put that in the pan. Now I'm going to take this little bit here, especially if you got kids, they'll love it. Take that little bit and just, you can roll it like that and make you something, or you can flatten it out and make something, but that will end up being a little biscuit. So I'm going to put that in the pan. Now what do we got? 2, 4, 6. We got about 6 or 7 biscuits. I'm going to put them inside a 375 degree oven. And I'm going to put them on the second shelf. If the shelf's on the bottom of the burner, I'm going to move it up and put them on the second shelf. The reason being, if it's on the bottom of them biscuits is going to burn before the tops start getting a light brown. But if you move it up, then the biscuit will sort of brown together. You'll get the bottom with a golden brown and you'll get the top with a light brown color. And that's just more appeasing to what we like to eat, okay? So that's it on making biscuits. Now when these come out of the oven, I'll show you what they look like. Stay tuned.